Hello, hi, how are you doing? It's that second month of the year, February. A lot of games came out this month and I had to decide early on which ones interested me the most to best save my wallet. The first half of the month was spent diving in and experiencing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Boy, that's a meaty game. I will fully be discussing it later in the video. The second half of the month, the two games I mentioned last month were released, Yakuza a week before March and Monster Hunter Wilds on the last day of February. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was enticing, but I wanted to play the first one before 2, and there just isn't enough time to squeeze that into my busy gaming schedule. By the time this video has come out, I just got my hands on Monster Hunter Wilds. Now I'm faced with the dilemma of spreading out my gaming time between a few games I'm amped for. In the past, when this happened, I would play one game for a day and the next day the other, and then I would alternate. Eventually, I will have more drive for one of them and fully focus on that one until I beat it and then move on to the other game I put down. I'm not so sure this will happen here, but that's where I'm at right now. Let's just hope choice paralysis doesn't take over. Now, February went by pretty quickly and it was a good month. Having this project in the background of my gaming experiences has done nothing but enhance my enjoyment. I am recording, organizing those recordings, taking notes on the game, and actively thinking about what I'm experiencing, which is making me appreciate the medium even more. Overall, I'm looking forward to playing more games and sharing it with you all. Now let's dive into what I played this month and figure out if they were fun. Alright, so to better organize my thoughts and to ensure I get to topics about the game I want to discuss, I've created a set of loose guidelines for myself. We're going to talk about the story and narrative, highlighting those big story beats that induce big emotions. Did the story explore themes that resonated with me? Next, arguably the most important part of the video game, we will analyze the gameplay. How does the game play? Also, let's look at how the game is presented visually to the player. Here I will highlight my appreciations of the art. Moving on to listening to the music. What does the music or soundtrack do to enhance the experience? I'm going to highlight my favorite tracks here. Last but certainly not least, we will be discussing the overall fun factor of the game, culminating all the previous features together. Did it make a fun game that I enjoyed experiencing? Would I play it again? And would I suggest it to others? To begin and fill our February month, we played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I thought I would be able to finish this game before Yakuza came out, but boy was I wrong. This game has a lot going for it. I went into it totally blind, avoiding anything about it until it came out for PC. I was expecting more Final Fantasy VII Remake, which it was, but even more. This game is open world, has mounts and vehicles, mini-games up the wazoo, and numerous other mechanics that were not in the first one. I took my time playing and completing maps, doing all the side quests, which was a good time, but I wanted to finish the game before making this video, so I binged the last couple chapters of the game so I can have a full, concise sense of the game to better talk about it. I definitely could have spent another month just doing everything in the game. It wasn't like a rush to get over with it. I plan to go back and do the rest of the game sometime between now and the next part of the trilogy. I went to Rebirth expecting answers. Answers the first game provoked. Nope. I have more questions. I can safely say Rebirth is the beach episode of the trilogy, while it literally has a beach section of the game. Filler content has a negative connotation to it, but for me, if I'm enjoying the content and I want more of it, filler content is just an excuse to spend more time in that world and with those characters. For a warning, there will be spoilers. Well, after a long year of watching others talk about the game with their shiny PS5s, I now have the game in my hands. Let's dive in. The game's story starts out with a bang. It picks up right after the events of Remake. Everyone is dead? Or are they? The story of Rebirth is a lot, but not? Well, a lot of the game's happenings are concentrated at the end of the game. Most of the game is Cloud and the gang go around following black robe guys to find Sephiroth, and then something happens. They then just follow them again. Sephiroth feels just as far away in the beginning until you finally see him in front of Cloud at the end. The story here doesn't feel too strong, and if you don't pay close attention in the last few hours, you might be left thinking, huh? Saying this might be reductive, but a lot of nothing happens in Rebirth in terms of the story progression. The game is divided story-wise by its different areas that the gang visits. Rebirth is the part of a journey that isn't really highlighted into major story beats, except in the end. Well then, what happens? Well, as the gang follows these black robe guys, Cloud goes from place to place and does things. Things like climb telephone towers, catch chocobos, play piano, wrangle moogles, ride a dolphin, gather ancient relics called proto-relics, get sucked into a board game, lead a military parade, turn into a frog, play Wipeout, shoot targets like a pirate, watch Red play Rocket League, play I Spy the Cactuar, ride a Segway, watch Tifa do sit-ups, watch Barrett shoot targets on a railway, race chocobos, play as a space ranger, do the motorcycle minigame again, hit a bunch of boxes before the time runs out, fight a mustache bodybuilder in a virtual fighter, act in a play, beat up a lot of cactars, fly chocobos, and ultimately play a card game with a sinister background. Yes, these are all minigames, which I will touch on a little more in the gameplay section. Rebirth's story is building on the themes from the first one with a more salient approach. The end of the game was filled with story progression, kinda. More so for setting up for the third game, with giving indirect hints at multiple timelines and the battle with fate. Death, life, anger, sadness, and mostly grief, and how the characters deal with it. Maybe this is the story of grief, and Final Fantasy Rebirth is a look at the rebirth of the soul and those who have lost someone or something. Maybe. Looking forward to some answers in the next one, but now let's talk about the characters. One of my favorite parts of the first game. Where's Cloud and the gang now in their arcs? Rebirth gives a way for a lot of opportunities for the characters to interact in different weird situations, and it was a pleasure to experience. Rebirth for the characters was like a vacation with Cloud and the gang. It felt like there was not too much character progression, but their bonds were still growing stronger. Well, there was actually character progression for everyone, but I might feel like there wasn't much because none of them were really fleshed out, probably because they weren't finished. This wasn't the introduction of these characters like in Remake, but just the middle chunk, without the resolution. Rebirth was used to dive deeper into the characters except maybe Cloud. There was a part in the ending of the game where all the characters had to go through a trial to get deeper into a temple. Here they showed where they lost someone or something, feeding into why they are the way they are today. Tifa lost her father, so she turned to anger, driving her to Avalanche. Red lost his freedom and put his walls up to everyone and everything. Yuffie lost a student who gave her all his hope, and now she carries it heavily. Aerith lost her mother and is left with guilt, not being able to save her. And then there's Barrett. Barrett feels a little of all these emotions. He got a lot of character development in Rebirth, which I appreciate. He lost his best friend and is looking after his daughter, but the trial showed him losing his wife. It wasn't until I saw all these scenes that I realized there wasn't much going on in Rebirth but healing. Yeah, their losses were all still in their minds, but the gang had each other and leaned on each other to keep moving forward. Cloud begins where Remake left him off. He loses some of his edge, is more open, and a little less moody. Just seeing the first scenes with Cloud interacting with the others was a stark difference than in Remake. He was opening up. This was key because all of the ridiculous situations in the game that he was put through was more believable. Yeah, Cloud would help an old lady lead chickens back to her house with a string and a tin can. Slowly. Great quest, by the way. Old Cloud would not even entertain this. Cloud has grown. Well, except when Sephiroth ever shows up to taunt him. He will immediately regress. Cloud's trauma initially is the betrayal of his hero, when in Rebirth shows his hero, Sephiroth, burn his hometown to the ground. But in Rebirth, it's the death of Aerith, or the supposed death of her. The whole game builds up to this moment where Cloud tries to save Aerith from being murdered by Sephiroth. But there's some multiverse and timeline shenanigans going on throughout the whole game that it could take forever to analyze and discuss here, so I'm not going to go too deep into that here. It's mostly theories right now. In the end, Rebirth leaves Cloud stricken with grief, an almost unhealthy way of coping with it. We don't know, as the game intentionally left it up for question that will hopefully be answered in the next one. I have even mentioned some other characters that made their way into the game. Kank Sith, a mechanical cat with an Irish accent. and his Moogle ride, who's supposedly controlled by a Shinra higher-up. He's very weird, but I accept it. He plays an important part of the plot. Vincent Valentine, who is such a cool character, but doesn't do much of anything but stand around being oh so cool. He's voiced by Matt Mercer. The game expands upon Red, whose real name is Nanaki, and this whole time his voice was just a cover-up for his real boy-like voice, which I didn't like as much. Yuffie gets on my nerves at various points in the game, maybe because she's a cocky kid, but she gets better by the end. Oh yeah, Zack was there. Kinda. He was in a different universe doing his thing as some variant. He does come in clutch at the end. Overall, Rebirth's story is good. It's messy, but maybe that was intentional. The end of the game's narrative made me appreciate where it was taking the characters. It was a very impactful ending, mainly with Aerith and Cloud. It was enjoyable seeing the game go on silly adventures. But please, the next game, give me some answers. I need them. Now let's talk about the gameplay. A lot of what was in the first game is in Rebirth, but also expanded upon. We got more armor pieces, accessories, recovery items, weapons, all with different designs you can see on each character, even more materia options and larger slots. The level cap was extended, more weapon abilities, this is way more streamlined, no more slow menu, and those are just things that were already in the first game. We now have even more on top of that. These numerous game systems make Rebirth feel like a more beefy RPG, which I very much appreciate. Final Fantasy Remake feels more like a cinematic railroaded experience, while Rebirth feels and plays like an RPG, where the player has more choice. Right away, the largest difference is that Rebirth is an open world game, so the game is divided into different regions, and each region has a map you can traverse in. I enjoy open world gameplay if the world itself is enjoyable to be in, and for me, running around beautiful diverse regions with the Final Fantasy feel, it's fun. Each map has things for you to do, like get hours to reveal more things to do on the map. This is Chadley's new purpose, who previously had you do combat for new materia. Now he wants you to gather information about the region, and in turn, you get new materia to use and level up. I thought I was burned out by open world formula games, but I found myself just vibing and chilling out, going around doing the tasks with a good amount of satisfaction. What is also cool is that all of this is optional, so I wasn't forced to do it. I plan to do everything on another playthrough. Rebirth now also has crafting for recovery items and equipment. More blue materia was added that can let your AI-controlled party members use abilities without you telling them to do, which is awesome. The new materia options made the game fresh again. Another system was added that took me by surprise, and that is party level. So when you beat bosses and complete quests, you earn party XP, and that unlocks more parts of a skill tree for each character. Here you can gain base stats, spells, new limit breaks, and most importantly, synergy abilities. I love this new addition to the combat. Combat is still one of the strongest, if not the strongest part of the game. They expanded on the already good systems from Remake. The combat feels more fluid and less heavy than before. Blocking is faster, dodging is snappy, and synergy abilities add a new and appreciated part of the combat. Synergy abilities are something you can earn through skill points, allowing certain party members to team up and use a powerful ability that can do a lot of damage, give more ATB bars, give unlimited mana for a limited time, and more. As each character uses ATB bars in battle, they earn a synergy point up to 4, which they can use when another party member has earned the same amount of synergy points, and together execute a cool ability paired with a cool animation. Each synergy is unique between each pairing and is encouraging you to use different party lineups. We now have 7 different playable characters, each with different combat gameplay, with weapon abilities, material loadouts, synergy abilities, armor and accessory variety, party lineup, and even more summons. You get such a very customizable combat system where you're always experimenting, switching in and out, combining different things to level them up or destroy a new boss. The combat has a deep system that allows for player expression, and I absolutely love it. In addition to the open world gameplay and expanded upon combat, there are 28 minigames, each with different mechanics and systems that are pretty shallow, like an arcade game, but some are deep like the card game Queen's Blood. I listed them off before, but I will point out my favorite one being Queen's Blood. This minigame had lore that was told throughout the game as you gain rank, and the card game itself was varied and fun. There were some minigames that were okay, but I played them all anyway and enjoyed my time as they never really overstayed their welcome. Each minigame has prizes that you can earn and collect to then later display them in a hotel resort you helped rebuild, which was really cool. Can't wait to see those shelves filled. In the end, Final Fantasy Rebirth was just more and a lot more at that. The world of Final Fantasy is fun to be in, and with great gameplay, I can enjoy my time in it. Now, on to the art and graphics. So I had some performance issues early on when playing Rebirth. There were frame drops in the open world and in more populated towns while recording. This was annoying and seemed to be taken away from the experience because over time it would hurt my eyes. I was playing on medium to high settings at 1080p and was unsure what the issue was. I did not want to lower the settings as the game looks so good on higher qualities, of course. So I buckled down and figured it out, and it turns out my PC was not set to hardware accelerated GPU, so my CPU was taking the brunt of the graphics and recording, which caused the slowdown. It fixed the issue and I was running where I wanted to be with the beautiful graphics. Rebirth's style is the same as Remake, but the tone is brighter as we are out of Midgard. There are more colors and environments to look at, and the game does very well to portray a bright fantasy world. The menus are great to look at too, now with full 3D animated character models to accompany you when building your loadouts for each character. Each minigame has its own custom menus too, which all look good and fit to their theme. Every region had its own vibe and look, with my favorites being Costa del Sol and Cosmo Canyon, as well as the even bigger Vegas area, the Gold Saucer, with different sections like a theme park. The hotel was haunted house themed, which is hilarious. The presentation for Rebirth is up to standards set by the first one, and is done well in its modern anime visual style. Again, with the music in Final Fantasy VII, it's fantastic. Battle themes are epic, minigame and dungeon music adds to the experience, and each region has its distinct map theme. Here's some of my favorites that stood out to me.
Don't lose focus. You hear me? Yikes. Just yikes. So, what's your next move?
There's a lot more, but you get the point. The music is great. Is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth fun? With the expanded combat systems, beautiful world, top-tier characters, intriguing story, and banging soundtrack, I can confidently say yes. This is the filler beach episode of the trilogy, but the filling is really tasty. I enjoyed my time with the game and look forward not only to the next one, but coming back to Rebirth to experience everything the game has to offer. Alright, that sums up the single player games I have played for the month. Playing through meaty Final Fantasy VII Rebirth took most of my time this past month. I also began to play Yakuza when it came out a week before the end of February. Majima having amnesia and washing up on an island next to Hawaii, and then becoming a pirate was not on my bingo card for the next Like a Dragon installment, but I'm so here for it. The game runs without any hiccup, It looks graphically good, and Majima's famous Japanese voice actor is back and better than ever. I'm currently only a few hours in, and I'm looking forward to playing more. For next month's video, I will dive into my full experience of the game. Monster Hunter Wilds is out, and I plan to be playing this alongside Yakuza, taking down monsters solo and with friends. By the time this video is out, I'd probably already played a bunch of the game. Now let's talk about the multiplayer game I played this month, Webfishing. The first thing I said to myself when I started playing Webfishing was, now this is a video game. I was pleasantly surprised by this little gem of a game. I'm a sucker for video game fishing, and that's all this game is. Fishing for fish, as cats, and it's fantastic. I'm playing with a bunch of friends, I'm having a blast. It's a good game to just vibe out with your friends while catching various fish. You basically play a cat or dog and earn money by fishing and selling those fish. And with that money, you can buy different lures and hooks, upgrade your bait, and most importantly, buy cosmetics for your cat. There's a simple fishing minigame where you click and hold to make your green bar move down the line, and then click rapidly to break the click threshold. This minigame changes based on the rarity and the size of fish you catch on your hook. The whole goal of the game is to catch all the fish, and it's a blast to do. I've caught one of each fish, and now my next goal is to catch every fish of normal rarity, as there are a few I'm missing. My favorite part of the game has been the ridiculously sized whale. It was hilarious when my wife pulled it out of the water for the first time. This thing took up the entire screen. It would just stick out of the communal aquarium tank. Web fishing is a good quality game. Now I want to talk about my plans for next month. I'm mostly going to be playing Yakuza and Monster Hunter Wilds. Like I said before, I cannot wait to experience more pirate shenanigans at Yakuza. Monster Hunter Wilds is a given. I'm going to be playing that solo and with friends. I heard that it's going to be a more streamlined story experience for at least the base game, which is cool. Can't wait to get to a point where I remember how to play the game. It's been a while. I need to learn the switch axe again. That's probably my favorite weapon. And I heard that you can use 2 weapons now, so still deciding on what that second slot's going to be filled with. But definitely going to go with the switch axe. Just does so much damage and it looks so cool doing it. This coming month in March, I think there's not many releases that I'm looking forward to except for Suikoden 1 and 2 Remastered. I've heard that this is a famous JRPG, that has to be played if you like JRPGs. And this is the first time it's actually accessible to me, so I will probably be checking that out after I beat Yakuza, most likely. And just the other day, Pokemon Day happened, and they had the Pokemon Direct. Pokemon ZA looks amazing. It comes later in the year, so I guess we'll get to that when we get to that. Thank you for watching. This video was a little close to the deadline since finishing up Final Fantasy Rebirth took so much of my month, but nonetheless, enjoyable to make. I look forward to the experiences I'm going to have this coming month and sharing it again. I hope to see more people sharing their own experiences with video games. I would love to see in the comments of what you've played this past month and what you're looking forward to in the next. I would also greatly appreciate any feedback for the next video, as I'm always looking to improve. The beginning of 2025 is beginning to roll out. 2 months down. Thank you again, and hope to see you in the next one.